Welcome to the Wheel of Prog!
Well done.
Back, everybody, to another episode of Wheel of Prog. It was quite the opening. We are gonna, move things up a notch, I think, here with Rush albums. So we started with Porcupine Tree, we went up to Dream Theater, and now we're going after Rush. And who knows what'll happen here? But we got a good panel of Rush experts here. I think the Rush expert among our group, I feel like, is John Fiala. Who is a longtime fan and is wearing a shirt to prove it. And of course, we have Nick as well. And
Hi, everybody.
Kyle. Hi, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
Yeah. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of complaints from the Rush faithful. Whenever we've done anything online that has Rush involved, they win every vote, they win every trivia, every poll we do. So we'll see what happens. And I think we all come from different backgrounds in terms of what we like about the band and different eras. I think we've talked about that. We have 19 albums to cover, and then there's the 20th album, which is Feedback, but we're putting that straight into D tier as we predetermined. But should we just go ahead and get started, and then I guess we'll get into all our stories. Let's bring up the wheel. Where's my
mouse?
There we go.
Okay. And whoever wins gets some amazing prizes. Look at all those albums.
Look at how pretty.
What order we going in?
I can't even read them. There's so many.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
So who's first?
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and let John, you want to go first? You want to get the first spin?
Yeah.
We're gonna do 5. Basically, there's 5 rounds, and the max per row, if we want to look at the tier thing here real quick, is going to be 4 per row. As you see, Feedback is already in D tier, and there is a wild card tab as well that will allow you to move an album around, and that will only come into play after the 3rd run of things. So if we land on it sooner, we're going to respin. Okay, I think it'll all make sense. If you haven't watched this before, it gets crazy. But this will be fun. All right, John, we're going to go ahead and spin, and you can get us going.
Love it.
Here we go.
It's Starman.
What's it going to be?
What do we got? Oh, no.
All right.
Oh, wow. I wanted that album.
What a fun one to start with.
Oh, wow.
Can I just say that I love that album? Can I just say that? Okay.
You can say it.
Well,
you can.
Yeah, it's
all right.
Presto,
where are you putting it?
Okay. Well, the one thing I do love about Presto is that I was able to go to at least 1, maybe 2 of the Presto tours, and got to see the Dancing Bunnies on stage, and it's a good thing. Whenever you talk about a Rush album, there's not going to be, it's not a bad album. It's just like the levels of amazingness, in my opinion. I'm a fan of the album, but not as high as some of the other more obvious ones. I'm going to start out and put that into level C.
Yep.
I think one of my really favorite songs, and it may not be very well known to most people, is War Paint. Just a great kind of really heavy jamming song. It has the keyboards and everything in it, but golly, it's fun. And the Show Don't Tell is always in my top lists also. So I'm going for C level on that.
This was the first Rush album that I bought. I was 14 or something at the time. So this sort of began my era of listening to the band. And I just, maybe that's why I'm nostalgic for this record, but I like every song on it pretty much. Available Lights is really good. Anagram is great. Superconductor is great. I like the title track a lot. That's one of my all-time favorite songs.
Yes, absolutely.
Chain Lightning was always a favorite. I just think it's a really good record. It's held up against, when you hold up against things like that are more proggy, like Hemispheres and Permanent Waves in that era, it's not the same band. But on its own, I think it's a really, really good, strong record. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Look,
I'm glad you didn't put it in
I'll be
D.
the
That's it. You know,
I'll be the presto knocker here, okay, and I'll take my knocks. But for me, the problem with this album is the production. First one with Rupert Hine, and I just think the production's a little thin. I know Ghost of a
I'll
Chance
give you
was a
that for
huge
sure. It
hit
is.
and
It's
everything.
very troubly. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Too thin.
But you know, I over time, I think I've grown to not bother. That doesn't bother me as much. The thing with the remastered version that I thought would fix some of that, and it fixes nothing. It sounds literally exactly the same.
yeah.
They didn't
Well,
add any more bass. Nothing. It sounds exactly the same. Okay.
Significantly, it was their first album with Atlantic, right?
Yes, it was.
So maybe that's the reason. Yeah.
Actually, well, I would have probably wanted it in B. C
I
is
was gonna
okay for
ask
now,
about
but at
that.
least you didn't put it in D.
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
It's C tier
Okay.
for me, for whatever it's worth. It kicks off a new sound for them too. So
Yeah.
and
Right, which I think was probably a good thing after what came before, but I think we disagree there as well.
we'll
Anyway,
see.
all right, Nick,
We'll see.
you're up.
Oh wow! Come on, Roy, don't do me down this
Oh,
one.
All right.
Oh boy, is it moving still? Okay.
Oh
Arrested
man,
Steel.
Roy, you
All
do
right,
this to
well,
me all the time.
I feel a certain way about this one, but I have no idea where you're going to go with this.
Okay, let me say first of all, blah 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 blah, and that's what I have to say about this album. Look, not my favorite. I think perhaps a little underrated, but one of the pioneering albums of prog metal. It has to be said. And therefore it was an important album, but just not my favorite. Lots of epics on there. I think Bastille Day is great. The Necromancer is great. But again, it's got a very 70s mix and quite experimental. A little bit of a letdown after Fly By Night. So I would give it a C.
All right.
All right, I'm glad you did that. I'm with you on that one.
That's where I've got it too. It's going
I
chalk for
really
me right
don't.
now.
I really didn't feel like it's something that belongs in A or something like that. So I
No.
was hoping maybe we didn't.
Well, but it's
end up there.
usually ranked like right towards the bottom, and I think it's better than that. I think actually listening to it in the context of their whole discography, it's got a great sound to it. Like, admittedly, I love the album before it and the album after it. It gets beat up on for a few of the songs, but I actually think it's a pretty good album. And if you love prog, it is assuredly a prog album. But it's the one that is kind of going down the tubes tour, and it's not viewed quite as favorably as I think it probably deserves. But I think the sound is actually really great. And so Bastille Day, I like the little live version of Lakeside Park that's on there. I don't know. I think it's a pretty good album.
Yeah, and they did Lakeside Park on the R40 tour, and one of the last. I think that's how it opened the encore.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it was. I enjoy it, but yeah, once again, it's one of those things. It's one of the lower awesome albums that's out there. So,
right. Okay, moving on. Kyle, you're up.
Yeah, very unoffensive start to this. Couple C tiers.
So far,
we're gonna see what I'm.
Here we go. Oh wow, this is right up your alley. So this should.
I wanted this one.
Okay, I'm probably gonna hurt some feelings here. I actually really like Power Windows. It's my favorite.
It's fine.
It's my favorite of the kind of mid '80s era albums. And it's interesting because you'll see ranks that are all across the board. Everyone thinks Hold Your Fire is the worst, but a lot of people like Grace Under Pressure more. I really like Power Windows. I love how synth driven and electronic and cheesy it is. It's a silly thing to say, but I love the music videos from that era.
Oh no!
Oh yes! Oh yeah! The video for Big Money with the little car flying. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's terrible, but it's amazing. It was their version of Money for Nothing without a budget. But I love it. For me, it's an A tier album. It's still not S tier.
Come on.
No,
it's an A tier.
Oh
album.
yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Oh man, I would have given
Manhattan
it
Project, Marathon, Mystic Rhythms is great. The drum part to Mystic Rhythms is unbelievable.
Guys, I got to tell you, I would have given this.
The thing. I like Presto. I would not have put it in A tier, but All right, I'll let you do it.
Power Windows is like
Well,
my prime Rush era too. So that's when the big money first came out. Like prior to the album coming out, I recorded it off the radio. So I had my little cassette tape and I was recording it off the radio, and then the DJ started talking before the false ending right there. So he talked over the false ending. So the first like 40, 50 times I heard it had the DJ talking over. I can still remember everything he was saying because that's how you listen to music before an album came out. He just recorded the little advanced track beforehand.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man,
No,
did somebody
for me,
use the
this
word
is-
cheesy? No way.
For me, this is at best a B. I'm not sure it isn't a C for me. Although, again,
Oh,
I
wow.
still like some of the songs on it. But, yeah.
I mean, what songs are
okay.
there not to love? I think it's great.
Territories is amazing. I can't believe that you haven't mentioned that yet.
No,
That's
I like Marathon.
Marathon.
Let me
Manhattan
tell you, this
Project.
Lyrics
this
on
is the
Middletown
album.
Dreams is
No,
great.
but this, I just, okay, we're getting to other albums that I think will just show that are better than this album that will be an SNA. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's brilliant. It should be an S.
My turn. S. Oh, boy.
It'd be
Okay.
an S for you. Wow. Wow.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
That's ridiculous.
All right.
It's a wise man.
Uh-oh.
Ah, shocker.
Oh, why don't I get anything fun?
Nothing controversial, probably.
Goodness gracious. I mean, this is just
What's
like
not to love?
whatever.
Yeah, it's got to be.
All right, we're done. Okay, moving on.
So I'll address this because we have nothing really to say about Moving Pictures. It is, if it's not their best album, it's it's a top 3 for anyone who likes Rush. I had an option when I was a kid because I was, I'm younger than you guys. I was born in '84, so Power Windows came out when I was 1. So I was admittedly not into Rush at the time. But when I went to the record store to buy, I was like, I want a Rush CD. They had Retrospective 1 and Retrospective 2. And Retrospective 2 had all the Moving Pictures songs on, which I was most familiar with. So I got it. So with that, I have a certain affinity towards the albums of the 80s, I think, because of that album as much as anything, which maybe that's a sad reason, but
I have to make a one adjustment here, and it was pointed out to me on a few occasions online and by other people that have listened and watched other episodes of the Wheel of Prog that we do.
Yeah,
that we don't call out the name of the album, and some people are just listening to these episodes.
Okay,
and they don't know what album we're talking about. So we have apologies for that again, because again we just dragged Moving Pictures and put it in S without even saying the name of the record, and obviously that is the album we just did. But just recapping here, we have in S tier we have Moving Pictures so far. In A we have Power Windows, nothing in B. C has Presto and Crest of Steel, and D right now has Feedback, which we didn't even put on the wheel.
In fairness, based on context clues, you should know that. I mean, come on.
Right.
Can I give you one anecdote about Moving Pictures?
Sure.
You got to remember, in the southern tip of Africa, nobody had heard of the band Rush. You guys were hearing it on radio every day, okay? Nobody had heard of them down here. And we used to have record lending stores. We used to go and rent vinyl. And that was how it worked down here. And I saw this cover, and I saw this mean-looking picture of this drummer on the inside. And I thought, I like the look of this. And somehow the needle ended up on YYZ. It's not YYZ, by the way. It's YYZ. Mm-hmm. And that was my introduction to Rush. Can you imagine?
It's a good introduction. I've talked about this album before, like it's Dark Side of the Moon and those albums before that. Like I think they're brilliant, but I just never want to listen to them. And this falls into that, unfortunately. But I did listen to it, not recently for this podcast, but just like a month ago or whatever. I just put it on. And I love albums like that where you go back and you realize that every song on it was on the radio at some point, and it's just an amazing point in time when you realize that someone wrote all these songs together in one shot, and I just think that's amazing. That it's really it's brilliant when you go through the order of that record, especially side A. It's ridiculous. Like to write all that in one album cycle is crazy.
And side 2 gets knocked for no good reason.
I was just going to say something about side 2, because side 2, I think the camera eye is in my top 5 Rush songs. So that's
absolutely
it's a great side 2, and it only pales because you could only have so many singles on the radio, and they had already covered all of side A. So it was like, okay, enough. But
And
yeah,
You know how the album. You know how the album was mixed with every member of the band holding his own group of faders, because the digital recording system failed
I
apparently.
bet that's how a lot of things were done back
So
then.
Neil,
All right,
Neil
let's
had
move
all
on,
his
'cause we
tracks.
said we weren't going to spend any time on this record, and we spent
But it's moving pictures. It's moving pictures.
Dude,
Okay.
come on.
So-
All right, John, you're next again.
So while it spins, I'll add this, that the Limelight music video came on the other day, and I remember video recording that on my VHS and just watching it. I made my boys come in and watch the video. I was like, watch this. Anyway, while
Yeah,
the wheel's spinning, spin the wheel. I was trying to give some filler for the audio-only people, but anyway. Oh, who's got this one, John?
Test for
John
Echo.
is getting all my records. Like, this is really
Yeah,
not fair. I could have really destroyed this tier had I gotten John's choices.
You could have, yeah. Well, once again, I get one of these, not one of the top super high ones on here. I made a top 50 favorite Rush songs, and I figured out how many albums are being represented and everything. I have at least one song from every album on that list, except for Test for Echo. And so for that, unfortunately, I have to put that in D. It has some, in preparing for this, I listened to every song again, and listening to Test for Echo, there's some really good stuff on there. So I don't want to knock it, because Half the World, Driven, that's just super amazing there. But then you get to Dog Years and Virtuality.
Virtuality is a good song. I am going to stand up for that song. That riff is awesome. That riff is awesome.
The lyrics have not aged that well.
Who cares about the lyrics? He has terrible lyrics in some of his songs.
And
like Virtuality.
I don't care about it. The guitar riff is great, and the hook is great. And Resist is a great song. Test for Echo is a really good song. I'm never claiming it's one of their best records. I wouldn't put it in above B, but I like this record. I think it gets a bad rep. But I'm not surprised. I'm in the minority. I think most people probably would have put it in D. I grant you that. I just don't think it's that bad.
I got 2 words. Great cover.
It does have a great cover. You're right.
I think that. Not great in the covers though.
So I remember there was a Neil Peart drum technique video. Have you seen this, Nick? And he plays all the songs for Test for Echo, and he does his he's got his traditional grip that he adopted. There it is. He adopted for this album with
he
Freddie
went for
Gruber
lessons with Freddie Gruber, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that did him any good at all. You can hear his touch is a little bit too light with that traditional grip on this album. I think this album suffered because of that. And it's good reason why he went back to match grip later on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll say this of the album. I think the approach to the drums is good on this album. I think actually it feels like he spent more time on the drum parts, and they're cool. It just feels like to me a little bit too cold overall. Like it's a little sterile. It's a little paint by numbers. It doesn't, to me,
I think people connect with me emotionally. Not like this record. That's what I think.
I don't think that's true for me, but fair enough.
Okay, Nick.
My eyes are old. You might have to call it out.
Permanent Waves.
Permanent Waves. Thank you, Roie. At last. It's taken 2 of these to get me somewhere.
This is like Nick's favorite album, right?
So you guys may have grown up with Free Will and Spirit of Radio on the radio every day, every station you were listening to 1,000,000 times, but not us over here. I just want to say again, imagine that you had never heard any of these songs on the radio ever, and then you listen to the whole album. It's just astounding. It's prog rock of the highest order. There was a stylistic change from Hemispheres to Permanent Waves, and that might sound like a huge shift, but actually it was just a kind of refinement, in my opinion. You take a song like Free Will. It's in 13/8, or a bar of 4 and a bar of 6, if you want to count it as a drummer. And yet in 13 timing, it's still radio friendly. How do you do that? It's a brilliant, balanced, structured 5-star album with 2 long epics and 2 short songs on each side. It's just a masterpiece in my opinion. Accessible, but still progressive. Free Will is one of the greatest guitar solos ever recorded, in my opinion. Entre Nous, Jacob's Ladder, Natural Science, Different Strengths. It just goes on and on and on. Brilliant from beginning to end. It's got Police influences in places. It's got Zeppelin in other places. This takes it all to a higher level. And all three of the band members here just shine. And every moment for me is as it should be. Pure brilliance. And it's got to be an S.
Perfect.
I think you covered it.
No arguments.
I think most people feel that way. Personally, I think I like Moving Pictures better, just the songs better. But yeah, I mean, whatever.
It's neck and neck with those two for me.
Mm-hmm.
Great album cover, huh? Come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. The album covers are weird. Who is up? Kyle. All right.
Is it me?
Yep.
All right. I'm excited. Everything has gone into the tier that I wanted it into.
Okay.
Roll the Bones.
Another album I like that you're going to destroy.
I won't destroy this.
Can I get any record that I
like? So for me, Roll the Bones. This could be beaten up on. This is actually my brother, for what it's worth. He's not here, but huge Rush fan, and he loves this album. This might be an A tier album for him, but for me, this is along the same lines as the rest of their albums in this grouping: Presto, Roll the Bones, Counterparts. I may make an exception to that later, but Roll the Bones for me is a C tier album. It's not as great as the rest of their albums. I think that they're, as with any Rush album, Roll the Bones has some great tracks. It is also a product of its time. I think this one, maybe as much as any other album, obviously there's the rap on the title track, that's sort of a rap thing. But it sounds good. It's a fun album. I don't love it. I like Dreamline. Bravado's good. But there's a few songs that I just don't love that kind of like, I don't know, falls into a little bit different category. I don't know. It's one of those ones for me that's it's not the worst of their stuff. It's not the best of their stuff. Roll the Bones. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's align the chorus. It's not the worst of our stuff.
Yeah. Roll the Bones. They rolled the bones and it came up.
It's an album that
C tier.
In revisiting it, I realized I did like more of it than I thought I did in the past.
Same.
I think there's a lot of good songs on there. Actually, Ghost of a Chance, I think actually is pretty brilliant.
I do like that one too.
And but man, I thought that the rap in Roll the Bones might have aged a little better. It's still as awful as it ever was. It's so bad. It's
worse than it ever was.
And I just wish they would release a version of that song without that on it, and with just them playing. It would be awesome. That's a really good song. It's a really good song.
When I initially sketched out my ratings, I put this in D tier just because my mind immediately goes to the rap on that song, and it just like dates it so much.
No, that brings down the whole album by a
and then I listened to it and I was like, it's pretty good. And anyway, it's a C tier album for me.
I mean, I won't fight you on it being C. I don't know. I'd have to see where other things fall into place, but I do like the album. Okay. Let's see.
And again, we like all the albums. There are things that I really like about all of them.
I am just not getting it.
Their worst is everybody else's middle tier, at least.
I wish I could get one album I like.
Wait, who's got this? Is this you?
Snakes and Arrows.
Oh, interesting.
I think this album is really terrible.
It's not a terrible album.
It's my least favorite Rush album.
There you go. That might be better.
By a mile.
It's also my least favorite Rush album.
I don't like one song on it.
Oh, no way. Really?
Oh.
And there are 13 songs.
We're going to have to argue about some of those then.
No, I mean, if nothing else, Far Cry is great.
It prods along with nothing happening, no memorable choruses, just nothing. It's just
No. Far Cry is great.
It's just riffs. That's all. It's an album of just them playing riffs, and there's nothing memorable on the entire thing.
I disagree because the two instrumentals, I think, are, I won't say up there, obviously, with La Vila and YYZ or anything like that, but the main Monkey Business, good, long, I think it's a good classic Rush instrumental. Malignant Narcissism is super short, but it's got a great little hook to it. And
but I don't know. If the only song on an album that's good is an instrumental, it doesn't do much for me.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And what's it like? It's
But
like a
I
minute
am
and a half
glad I
long or
saved
something?
Kyle from putting it in like A tier or something. So it's
Oh, are you kidding? Oh, this one is
Wow.
literally my lowest ranked Rush album.
okay, good. We agree on something.
Period. I mean,
All
there's
right,
there
I
for me.
haven't
There's
seen-
one great song, and it's the opener, and then the rest of it's
That's
muddled.
the best song. If I was gonna say anything about that's the best song on the album is the opening song, but man, it's a stretch. Okay. So all right, we got at least I got that off my chest.
So
John.
So as this is spinning, I've got the Rush pinball machine, and they've got that song on it, and it's a great pinball song. So anyway, whatever that's worth.
Okay. Well, I'm
Signals.
interested to see where you put
Signals.
this one.
Okay.
Signals. All right,
This
we got
may be
Signals.
controversial. We don't know.
All right. Quick story before I tell you where I'm going to put this is that my very first concert of my life was on release day of Signals, November 9th, 1982. September 9th, 1982. And I went to see them in Omaha. And since it was release day, you didn't know any of the songs. You knew the old songs, but you did not know you didn't know anything. However, seeing Countdown live, that's just something that still is in my mind. Hearing Chemistry and hearing electricity, just those little exclamations right there. Those things are still very, very vivid in my mind from my 16-year-old self back in 1982. I have too many other things to put in my S tier, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to put that into the A tier.
That's where I put it. Yeah, well said.
Yep, I think that's okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I
think
could
that's
argue
spot on.
for it to be an S as well because I really like that record, but I'm okay with it in A.
Yeah.
I
mean,
like that album a
all of
lot.
them are. The only song that I really don't get into very much is "New World Man," which is, I think, it was the first
That's a great
single that
song.
came out with it.
Man,
Yeah.
I love
Apparently
that
that was
song.
your first
Great
number one
song.
hit or something.
Everything else,
I think it's true to say that anything that came after Moving Pictures was likely to get some kind of flack, you know.
Mhm.
But the change they did was so dramatic between those two records, and to still make it work, it's amazing that the job they did with Signals, really,
More
because
modern.
they would have had the
more-
previous two albums. Where do you follow? You know, and they completely changed what they do and did it brilliantly.
Subdivisions alone puts this in A tier. That's
such a great
top
song.
3 track for me. I love
Great
that
song.
track.
Great song.
This was Terry Brown's last collaboration with the band, and it'd be interesting to see what their next album might have been with Terry Brown. I don't know. So
Subdivision's generally regarded as Neil's best lyrics. So there's that.
Mhm.
See that? It's really good.
yeah.
All right. So we all agree on that one. That's a good one.
Excellent.
Cool
Nick.
album cover, you know?
I still have the T-shirt, which I won't forget.
Dude,
$10
Dalmatian.
concert, $10 T-shirt.
Oh, you're getting a good one there. All right,
That's
good.
unbelievable. Hemispheres.
Hemispheres is up.
And hey, let's give a shout out to Jeff Bailey for the Naked Guy on the Rush albums. He's related to this guy, apparently. So Starman, and I think the Naked Man on Hemisphere is the same butt. Part of Hugh Siamese team, right? Is that right? Yeah, we don't need to know that, but anyway.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
yes, that's right.
I thought he was the model or something.
Yeah, he's like Hugh Siamese, like art, director or something, and related to Jeff Bailey. Okay, we'll cut that out later.
Nick, where are you putting
Come on.
Hemispheres?
Okay, Hemispheres to me is their proggiest album. They're all standout tracks. It's very balanced. Cygnus, the whole concept of the god of balance coming through a black hole, allegory for the human brain, left brain, right brain, that whole thing, grasshopper and ant. So that whole notion of balance makes it very proggy and extremely conceptual. There's one thing that has to be said about Hemispheres, and that is that for this music to have existed in someone's mind and then to be delivered by these three guys in the way they delivered this album is just astounding. In particular, La Via Strangiato, which, I mean, it is just an instrumental progressive rock masterpiece. how do you write something like that, and then how do you deliver it in that way? Every average drummer in the world was trying to play YYZ, but the real drummers were trying to play La Via. And really, this is the band at their best. I believe they recorded La Via outdoors, which is astounding. The whole thing is just mesmerizing from beginning to end. So I've got to put Hemispheres, and I know we're starting to get tight up there, but I got to put it in S. So I'm feeling good about this podcast so far.
Yeah.
The S tier's looking correct.
Yeah, it is.
That was my prediction for S tier, and so far it's right on point.
So, so Mike Portnoy said of Hemispheres that it was the band at their height. I think, like, in terms of their ability, technically, artistically, this was that album, and I'm inclined to agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's in some ways, Moving Pictures is their best collection of songs. I feel like, technically speaking, and just kind of the aura that I get listening to Hemispheres, it's maybe their best, like, moment as a band. But
I agree.
So I think I mentioned this earlier, but I started to look at the band sort of as 4 bands almost, because you have the early records, which is sort of Led Zeppelin-y or whatever, and I just don't like those sound of those records, even though there's some good songs on each of them. I don't like that style. Then you have sort of now we're a prog band, 2112 through Permanent Waves or whatever, which is like sort of peak musicianship. Then you got the 80s, which is its own, the synth era or whatever. And then sort of starting from Presto on, they just sort of became a rock band. And most of those records are that. It's them rocking. There's a few proggy moments here and there, but if that's all they ever were, I don't know that they're considered this legendary prog band, right? So, and then sort of where what age you were in your teens and 20s is the era you like, I think, the best. I sort of think that how it pans out a little bit. But all the eras are good in their own right.
I agree to disagree, because I was a teen when Vapor Trails came out, but
Oh, okay, yeah, fair. I know. Well, that's obviously it's not universal, but usually that's the case. But,
I'll save that for when Vapor Trails hits. But yeah,
although I mean, for Genesis, I grew up in the Invisible Touch era, and early Genesis is obviously, I think, better. But anyway, I always feel like the earlier eras for me still suffer a little bit, even stuff like Hemispheres, even though I like it, even though I think it's brilliant, just the sort of 70s production and the vocals still aren't what I love. I actually like his singing later, and that just is, maybe that's why I like some of the later records better.
Well, we didn't say anything about the Trees just yet, but the Trees is amazing. I love the Trees. I love the sound of the percussion on the Trees is so good.
Yeah, and lyrically, there's a lot of English teachers that use that, all the symbolism in there. So, I think that's brilliant there, right, too, just to bring that into the education world.
Yeah. All right, so who did Hemispheres? That was Nick. So, all right, Kyle, you're up.
It's me. This is coming along swimmingly. Can I say?
There's only one that's out of my tier.
Right. Let's just give you 2112 so that you can put something correctly.
No, what are you talking about? I don't know that I'll put it correctly is the thing. You almost gave it to me.
Oh, interesting.
All right, this one's a good one let's see where you put this one.
All right, so let's be honest. It's a Farewell to Kings, the 1977 album by Rush. I think, let's be honest, it's either S tier or it's A tier, and I think it depends on where you want to put it.
I guess it's between this and one other album, what goes in S, and that's a matter of preference.
It's probably between this and 2112, at least according to mine. Although I have Signals and Power Windows ranked above 2112, so I had this ranked as an S tier album.
Yes,
I think it's a very solid album. I think on a prog rock podcast, it has to go into S tier. It's an assuredly prog album.
So,
yes,
is 2112 not the S tier album though, considering its relevance?
For me, it's not, and we'll wait till we talk about it. But side A is S tier all the way, and then side B is just a pretty big drop off for me. There's some tracks I like, but for me, Farewell to Kings is more consistent throughout. I think it represents kind of the step up technically and conceptually in some ways from 2112. I really like it.
So
Closer to the Heart
four
is
albums we have there.
awesome.
That's a 4 consecutive album. That's an era, right? 4 in a row.
Yeah,
That's where
yeah.
That's
I
where
think
we-
that's where they got it best.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like I
was
said, this is
also-
the one on the border. The top 3 are for sure Moving Pictures, Permanent Waves, Hemispheres for me. And then this one is kind of a flex, but for me, it lands in S tier. As I listen back through it, as I've grown up with it, it's awesome.
Well, I think that's right. Everything you love about Rush is on this album, and it's full of the unexpected. Anything can happen on it. Neil is at his most experimental, using tuned percussion all over the place. There are experimental sounds everywhere. It deserves to be there. I agree.
Mhm.
All right.
Just the two epics there, Xanadu and Cygnus X1. Those two just alone, I think, for me, put it in the show. The other songs, Cinderella Man, Madrigal, or
Madrigal.
Those don't do much for me. Farewell to Kings is brilliant. Closer to the Heart is just a good old poppy song, but the two epics for me just bring it into that top tier.
A good old
Interesting
poppy
how we don't
song
have-
with
Good old pop song, really.
We don't have one album in B yet. Isn't that weird?
What's that?
That's so
Yeah.
weird.
Well,
We don't have one
we're
album in
saving B for
yet.
later. You
Yeah.
know?
If you've ever watched Trailer Park Boys, that's more than just a pop song, man.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there'll obviously be some debate about that, but I think it's not crazy. And
There's also a wild card starting next round, and you can
Yes.
move it.
starting now. Although
Yeah, starting
whatever.
now.
All right, so I'm up.
The wheel has just, it's a mercurial thing. So
Uh-oh.
ah,
There you go.
There it is.
here's your chance to change it if
There
you
it
want.
is.
No, I think I'm gonna leave it alone. I think
Okay.
I'm 2112. That's what I got. I think I'm gonna leave it alone and put it in A. I think that's valid. It's obviously maybe the most significant record for them.
Yeah.
In sort of the direction and fan base and the aura and the sort of pentagram symbol and the whole thing. But is it as strong or stronger as an overall record than the other 4 that we have in S? And I don't think it is. So yeah, I think A is pretty good. And alongside Signals and Power Windows, which is pretty solid collection there. So yeah.
All right.
it was also-
I've
it was
been
also a great
saving
statement.
this for 2112. This is a beer that John Fiala gave me. This is the Canadian Golden Ale by Rush with
Oh, cool.
Jeff's relative naked on the cover. And I'm going to drink this to celebrate. So is that okay, John, if I drink this now?
Oh, please do.
I've been saving this since Morse
Just for
Fest.
this
Like,
reason. Excellent.
I really wanted counterparts because I wanted to put one record I like up ranked somewhere good.
Oh, I hope he does not get the
yeah,
wild card.
maybe you'll wild card it in. So I'll say this at 2112. I think on a lot of the rank lists, it gets put in the top 3. Like literally listening through the albums, I don't think it belongs there. I think it is a great album. It's an A tier album, but literally the side A to side B, like people talk about Moving Pictures, like side B is kind of weak. I love side B. Side B of 2112 is pretty thin compared to side A. So
Yeah.
Well,
but for
an
what it
important-
was, it's a super incredible and important album, like you said. But it's a tier A album to me.
very important because it saved their careers, and they went against the record label's wishes, who wanted them to do something much more commercial. And they said, no, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. So it's very important.
Can I just say how much I miss side A and side B? I miss
Yeah,
that.
seriously,
I
I do
love
too.
the side A, side B thing. There was an art to it.
Yeah.
The art of what song closes side B, side A. What song starts side B. The whole thing. I just missed that whole thing. I thought that was always a cool.
I still love Passage to Bangkok.
Mhm.
I like it. I like Jerry Stiller kicking it off in concert. I don't know.
Mm.
Are they gonna play Bangkok? Anyway,
All right, John.
All right.
guys, this is going perfectly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, just just-
Clockwork Angels.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
The last album for Rush. This was a good album to kind of bring them, for me at least, it was a good album to kind of bring them back to a lot of their older styles of things. They never got back into the super heavy proggy stuff, in my opinion. But there's some really good things on here. Headlong Flight is just it's in my top 50. I'm not sure where it's at number 22. For me, I was able to take my son to his very first concert for the Clockwork Angels tour, so we got to do that little bonding there. And I gotta say that The Garden, what a perfect song to end their career with right there. Just the lyrics, just listening to it today, the lyrics to that are just very, very fitting. Love it. I have to put that, for me, it's going to go into the first one in B.
In B?
In B, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I
I've got it.
I might have even argued for it in A, to be honest. I think it's really good. And I couldn't believe, coming off of, mind you, Snakes and Arrows and
right,
and Vapor Trails, that so late into their career, they've made such a great album. It's one of my favorite Rush albums. And the opening song, Caravan, I was like, wow, they haven't made a song this good in like 20 years.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really, really strong, good sounding record. The whole thing about it is it's really good. And like you said, The Garden is a great ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any arguments?
I agree. I have it in B tier. I think it's a very solid album. I think, though, it also takes on that sound of sort of, like you said, everything after Presto. And I don't know. I'd love to have like a sound expert explain to me exactly what that is, but it feels like more of a wall of sound. It's more guitar driven, more riff driven. But the melodies here are stronger than the albums that preceded it. And I like the conceptual aspect of it. Lyrically, I think it's stronger. And there's some really great standout tracks. There's a book that came out, just like The Astonishing. So it's a B tier album for me.
All right. I think we can live with that.
Now, some people love it more than that. I see people rank it in the top 3 or 4, and it's not that for me. But, I digress.
Nick.
You
got
I got the first
album,
one, right?
The first album.
Okay.
We need some controversy. Come on.
Well, obviously, being the first album and the only one without
Let me
Neil,
rank it. It'll be some controversy.
Right. I mean, the only album without Neil. It's bound to be controversial and spark some debate. Look, it's a straight ahead rock album. It's very reminiscent of Cream and early Led Zeppelin, and it's kind of got a blues tinge to it. It's not exactly what Rush were going to become later on.
Correct.
But it's not a bad record by anybody's definition, or I mean, there's nothing to criticize about it. People love it because it's the first Rush album. There's quite an interesting story about it, because John Rutsey apparently wrote the lyrics, and then when Geddy was about to sing the lyrics, Rutsey just tore them up because he said, no, these are not good enough for you, and the lyrics were rewritten by Geddy on the spot in the studio recording. So that's an interesting anecdote about it. I think it's okay. It's a pretty good first album. I don't think it deserves to be in A tier. I'm going to stick it in B.
Well, the way you were talking about that, I was thinking you were going to go D or C. So it's a B tier album for me. This is crazy. This is like going exactly
I was ready to put it in D. That's where I was going to put it.
It's a good album. To me, the band that it most sounds like, it's surely Zeppelin, but the band Free, of which members ended up doing Bad Company. But
Paul Rogers. Yeah.
I almost think it sounds like the first Kiss record, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Some of the riffs, I mean, think of the old Kiss riffs, like She and Parasite and some of those things. It's similar style.
Yeah, I think all those bands were kind of copying the same thing.
Yeah.
To me, I think it's and dare I say it, sort of a sexy album in a way. I know that sounds ridiculous to say, but it's got good vibe to it. I like the riff-based approach of it. I mean, I love Zeppelin, of course. It's not proggy really that much at all, although you could argue that Working Man is proggy in a way. I think lyrically it's a little bit like, I don't know, troglodyte-ish. It's a little caveman-esque, but I think it's a great album. Like when I listen to that album, I get into the sound, I get into the feel of it. Rutsy is not a bad drummer by any stretch. And I think tracks on that, Finding My Way is great. What You're Doing is great. I don't know. I think it's a good album. I have it as a B tier album. I was here to champion this album, and then Nick put it right where I thought it should go.
I would have put it in D. I don't like it at all.
That's where most people put it, but I think it's actually a really good album.
You know what's funny? Listening back to it in preparation for this, it occurred to me that people say Greta Van Fleet sounds like Led Zeppelin. Greta Van Fleet sounds like the
early
first Rush
Rush
album.
You'll be surprised that I actually have that in A.
Oh wow!
Wow, really?
It's the bottom of my A, but it squeaked in there.
Geddy's voice sounds great on it. I have it as their 10th best album, so it's close to A for me.
Yeah.
Okay, Kyle, you're up.
All right, big money, no whammies. Let's go.
Already gone, though.
Yeah, Big Money is gone. You're right. Oh, fantastic! This is one I hoped I would get.
He's getting all the records he likes, and I'm getting none of the ones.
Oh man.
Okay.
Well, this is Hold Your Fire, the album from 1987. The somewhat controversial album. Don't be too scared, Roy, because I'm not going to rank it too high, because while I love certain tracks on it, and I do admittedly love the mid-'80s kind of synth-heavy pop vibe of Rush, there are still some major issues with this album. So I am not going to lie. I love the Amy Mann vocal on Time Stand Still. I love
it's a good song. I like that
song. The video, as much as I love cheesy 80 videos, this video is terrible.
It is awful.
The drums kind of fly around and so on. It's green screen gone, too much. But that song is great for what it is. I actually learned that song for Cruise to the Edge, and we never got to actually play it, which is disappointing. Force 10 is great. Prime Mover is great. Mission is great. And then there are some songs that really are huge clunkers. Tai Shan in particular is really bad, and actually Neil wrote the lyrics, and it's got this faux kind of oriental sound. The other band members don't love it, but I think it's a good album, not a great album. For me, it's a C tier album, and there's a spot for it.
Wow.
So let's put it in C tier. Others might put it in D tier. What were you surprised?
I thought you would put it higher. I thought you'd put it higher. C is fine for me. Yeah.
I had to be honest with it. As I listen back through the albums, as much as I like elements of it, the album as a whole is not great. Yeah. So
I once heard this album together with Hold Your Fire, together with Presto and Roll the Bones, as described as the trifecta of tripe. Because
they're all C tier albums for me. That's funny. They all fit into that.
I love Turn the Page, and the just the bass line, that the little keeps on going, and he sings throughout that whole thing. That's just brilliant. Just excellent stuff there. But yeah, I do have it in a C thing also, and I have some good strong good weeks too.
So we have 5. Oh, so I actually get to go 2 more times because I actually didn't kick it off. So I'm okay. Well, let's see what I get.
Wait a second. This guy's cheating. Cheating.
I didn't go first. Oh my God.
There you go.
Paper trails.
Paper trails.
Are we doing the 2002 version or the 2013 remix? What are we doing here?
So I can actually do something, which I think I'm going to do.
Don't get cute with it, Roy.
Rush's Saint Anger. Come on, Roy.
Are we all in agreement?
It came out about the same time, yeah.
Are we in agreement that it would be in D?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I was maybe gonna play around, but no, that's fine.
Even the 2013 version.
It is slightly better than Snakes and Arrows. Musically, there's more interesting stuff. The drumming is better. That's my take on the record. But again, lacking memorable songs. I think Presto, Roll the Bones have memorable songs. Maybe not as many as you like. Maybe they're not proggy enough, whatever, but they have memorable songs that are good. Snakes and Arrows and whatever this one is.
Vapor Trails.
Vapor Trails.
This plotting piece of hot garbage.
Just don't have memorable songs. That's
Yeah.
The one thing I have to say that's positive about it is that this is right after Neil had taken 5 years off because of the loss of his wife and his daughter, common law wife and his daughter. And it starts out with One Little Victory, and just the beginning of that song is really kind of tells everybody that he's back and they're ready to go again.
Well, that's exactly my point of comparing the difference between that album and Snakes and Arrows, where Snakes and Arrows starts off with just the Far Cry thing, which dun, 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 nothing, and then One Small Victory is just like all this stuff going on, and you're like, oh, it's already better. Like just the first 20 seconds of this album is better.
So in fairness to Rush, did any like legacy band make a good album in the early 2000s? And I think the answer is no.
That's I mean, I'd have to think about more of them.
We were in such a creative vacuum at the time and a production vacuum. It was all just hot garbage.
Well, that was an era where a lot of these bands were trying to figure out how to fit into the post grunge era. And that's what these albums try to sound like.
Yeah.
Getty
dynamically awful.
Getty was playing chords on the bass instead of his usual intricate runs. It was just a bit of a weird performance.
Yeah.
No exceptionally low moments on it, but
so I was a senior in high school and I bought this CD and I popped it in my car, my Isuzu Rodeo that I had, and I was so excited to hear this album. And the first album, One Little Victory, is awesome. Like the drum part in particular is one of my favorite Neil parts. And I was just sort of Peart. Sorry, did I say Pert?
No,
it's this Rush beer.
You said part, and I was just thinking.
Well, it's a Neil part, is what I'm saying.
I get it. Yeah.
Neil.
That's
get
hilarious.
It right.
But I remember being disappointed with the rest of it. But it wasn't as disappointing as Saint Anger, which came just a year before. So anyway.
Yeah. All right.
Moving on.
So we got 3 albums and a wild card left. Oh,
it's exciting
please give me the wild card at the very end. That would be awesome.
How's that tasting, Kyle?
Oh, this is actually a great beer.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah,
so that was me. John, you're next.
I was saving it for a special moment. Thank you, by the way. Actually, Mike Portnoy thought I was handing him this as a gift, but I wasn't.
Oh,
more spest. All right, Fly By Night.
Fly By Night. All right, Fly By Night. First album with Neil, obviously. First album with Terry Brown to kind of begin that long legacy of that collaboration. Brilliant stuff. Bytor and Snow Dog is brilliant. First thing that really kind of sticks out for the album for me. A lot of great songs on there. Anthem, Best I Can, In the End. Fly By Night is, I think, a good song, but does not do anything for me as much as like Bytor and Snow Dog do. Bytor and Snow Dog is like I said, that really kind of brings it up for me. I actually have it in B tier, so there's room for it. So
really, I thought you would put it in A. I mean, considering the albums left, that's all, you want to look at the albums left and decide based on that, or you're just going straight B.
Grace Under Pressure counterparts, Fly By Night. It's on the border for me. It's a border A, B tier, but
I think all 3 of those are arguable between any of those remaining slots, right? So
I had the same thing, A or B. For me, they were dabbling in prog, but not truly committing to it. So
I think B's fine.
No.
I think it's more of a B record.
I have something else that I would put in A of those 3. So, and it's high for me. It ranks higher than Fly By Night.
Okay,
it's pretty obvious which one I think it's going to be too. So,
yep. No, I'm in agreement there. I think that's fine. Okay. Oh boy, we're getting down to the wire. This is exciting.
That's my first disagreement in the entire podcast. I think Fly By Night's an incredible album. I love the sound of it. But
yeah,
best album art.
Your views on this band, to use a term, astonish me.
Yeah, maybe they elude you a little bit. I love the early sound, and I love the middle sound.
The 80s and the early 70s. That's weird.
Do you like Rivendell even?
I mean, no, it's not. No.
It's weird because I was listening to it today, and Geddy's vocals are only in one speaker, only in one side.
Yeah. They never
All right.
played that live. I think there's a reason.
Right.
So, Nick, you're next.
Okay.
This is so funny. Oh boy, you're just getting there.
Oh!
Yay! Grace Under Pressure.
Grace Under Pressure.
Grace Under Pressure. Okay, it's an A tier for me. I love this album. Of course, the title Grace Under Pressure was inspired by Neil's love of Ernest Hemingway. It was all about the courage that it took for Rush to do an album without Terry Brown and take a leap into space, as it were. It's kind of, for me, the perfect snapshot of Rush going into the 80s, being a 1984 album. It kind of it set the tone for the rest of the decade for them. There was guitar sound experimentation, but full-on synthesizer here, which makes it a grower. You know, you got to. I had to listen to this album quite a few times before I grew to love it, but eventually I did. By then I was loving the Police, and I heard the Police influences there, those reggae grooves with the Rush melodies on top. Songs like Distant Early Warning, Red Sector A. I think, if I'm correct, this was Neil's first use of the Simmons electronic drum kit, which appears on songs like Between the Wheels and After Image. This was kind of Neil being Stuart Copeland, but with Simmons drums, if you know what I mean. I like the fact that the album is short. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Great production by Peter Henderson, or co-production, although apparently he was a bit indecisive, according to Wikipedia, and they had to make some decisions themselves. All in all, a pretty great album. I'm going to have to stick it in A.
Yeah, I don't have a lot.
I don't mind that.
That album's okay for me, but it's fun. You know, I don't know. It's not an album I listen to much. Some of the songs are good. I know some of the songs, but it's never an album I got into.
Between the Wheels, when they kept on playing that on tour for years and years afterwards, that's a good one that really kind of sticks in you.
Do most people think of that album that highly, though? I'm not sure. Is that?
Yeah, I think actually it's of that middle era, it's the one that's ranked the highest on average, even more than Power Windows.
Compared to Power Windows and Hold Your Fire.
I see it lower than Power Windows. I have it like just the top of B tier, but I mean, I think probably on average it's an A tier album as rankings go, which whatever that means.
Well, all right, you get to spin, and I'm either getting an album I really like a lot or a wild card, so this is going to work out well for me.
Wait, it's me, right?
You're next, so
yeah, it's me, and then you're just going to change whatever you want unless it's a wild card.
Pretty much.
Oh,
look, and it landed on Counterpart.
Here we go. What's Roie going to do next?
So I get to just move stuff around later.
Yeah,
all right, cool.
Just one though, right?
Yeah, just one.
All right, let's see. Yeah, all right. Well, I'll put Counterparts in B. To be honest, coming into this podcast, re-listening to it, I didn't view Counterparts as anything more than probably a C tier album. I kind of view it right there with Presto and Roll the Bones, but I think of that little era, that kind of 90s era, I'll call it. I think it's the best of those efforts. It is not my favorite of Rush's albums. That is like that kind of riff-driven era of Rush is my least favorite, but I think this specific album is probably their best of that. So let's see. Albums I like. Animate's great. Stick It Out. Nobody's Hero has great lyrics. And it kind of
amazing, yeah.
Stands out as sort of a unique moment, I think, for Rush. This is Peter Collins. I mean, I like it.
Was it Kevin Shirley? Was it not Kevin Shirley?
I have it written down as being Peter Collins, but I don't know.
Kevin Shirley, I think, was the engineer or something.
Yeah,
I used to be in a band with Kevin Shirley here in Japan.
Were you really?
Really?
Oh yeah. Caveman. A three-piece band called Caveman. The band was called Caveman. Yeah.
Wait, you were in that band?
I was, yeah.
That's nice.
Okay.
Very cool.
No, the producer is, as I said.
No. This is way back in the 80s.
No, it was Peter Collins, wasn't it?
Yeah, but they did have Kevin, the Caveman Shirley, do the engineer.
Yeah,
So-
he was the lead guitarist. A guy called Kai was the bass player, and I was playing drums. But we were just gigging around the local circuit here in Joburg.
Wow.
He's Australian, right?
No, he's South African. He went
Is
from
he?
Johannesburg to Sydney, where he did the was it the Shineback album or one of those, and then he made a big hit of himself and moved over to the States.
Nick, come on, he's on Falling into Infinity, my favorite A-tier Dream Theater
There you go.
album.
There you go, man. The
We have to
Caveman.
bring that album up again.
The Caveman rules.
Well, I have to, for counterparts, I actually think this is a really strong record. I like the production. I like the heaviness of the guitar. Stick It Out is great. Animate's one of my all-time favorite Rush songs. Easy.
Yep.
Nobody's Hero is awesome. Leave That Thing Alone is very cool. The last three songs, Cold Fire and Everyday Glory, just great. There's a couple of weaker songs towards the middle there that are just so-so. But yeah, I actually really like this record a lot. Look, for whatever it's worth, I can only say this. I'm appreciative of all of Rush's eras, I guess, as you could say. The early 3 albums are my least favorite, but this era, for whatever reason, Presto, Counterparts, Roll the Bones, that era, when I feel like listening to Rush, I tend to just like putting those on. I understand they're not their best albums, and I get it, but I don't know why those albums just appeal to me. I know I'm sort of in the minority, but that's all I can say about it.
And one thing I enjoyed doing the re-listen. I concentrated on these albums the most, just because I was so unfamiliar with them. So this is what I listened to these past couple of weeks preparing for this.
So this really worked out good for me because I do get the wild card. The wild card we kept in because we decided to not actually rank feedback and just put it in there. So I am left with the opportunity to move one around.
Well, you didn't actually spin the wheel. I just have to say. So,
Will it spin? Oh, it does.
yeah. I'm just trying to keep this honest, really.
Just in case
Does it do the whole thing?
breaks off.
It does.
You got the wild card. Yeah, you got the wild card.
Got the
Way to
wild
go.
card officially.
Okay. Yeah.
So what's the move? I'm going to be respectful of the SNA tiers as they are and not move anything around. I don't think there's anything horrendously put in there, whether or not I disagree with one album or not. So I'm just going to champion one of my favorite albums.
We know what you're going to do.
Yep, I saw that coming.
In here and move this one down. And that is the tier. Now I'm happy.
That is it. Amen. Let it be so.
You can be wrong, and that's okay. This is your show.
Everybody, let me have it. I'm willing to take it, but I will stand up for that.
All the Presto fans rejoice.
All right. Well,
as Manuel said, to Mr. Fulton.
Okay.
Any final thoughts on the wheel? I think it worked out pretty good.
Until about 30 seconds ago, this was a good ranking. I almost identical to what I had. So yeah,
yay, vindication for me.
Yeah, it's literally like very similar to mine. I think the one thing I would challenge people on is Caress of Steel is not as bad as you think it is. I think Fly By Night is better than you think it is, and I think their debut album is a great album. Mm-hmm. Those would be the things that I would probably, let's say, challenge people with. I think also Signals is it narrowly misses their top tier of albums. It's a very, very good album. It sounds great. And I think Power Windows is also excellent. And I think probably 2112 is not as good as it's made out to be, just for its historical
I'm trying to remember how I did my tier just by myself beforehand, but I feel like S tier was the same. A tier had Signals in 2112, and it also had
probably Counterparts up there or something.
Clockwork Angels and Counterparts, I think, were the other two.
This is pretty much spot on for me, except for what you did right at the end there. Right?
Yeah.
But I'll let you have it.
But a great band from top to bottom.
Absolutely.
We would all
Listen,
agree.
it's hard. You take this many albums by one band, and they're all, pretty darn good to rank like this. Listen.
Well, every album has an excellent song, and for whatever it's worth, it had a radio-friendly song on it. Which, what other band has 19 albums with 19, at least just 19 songs that could play on rock radio? I don't know that there is another one.
And what other band would have taken up 25% of the script of a Hollywood movie called I Love You, Man. Yeah. Only then.
There is
Nice.
Great
also
movie.
that.
Great movie.
There is
Way to
also
bring
that.
that into it.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us on another episode of Wheel of Prog. I'm not sure what the next one will be. We got this one done in about an hour. I thought it would be longer, but it
Yeah.
was pretty good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Again, please leave your comments. Let us know what we got right, how you would rank them. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on our audio podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. Progreport.com. Anything else we want to say?
Just
Slap at the
thank you.
bass. Slap at the
Slap of the
bass.
bass. Slap of the bass. Yeah,
All right,
I would
have a good
I
night,
would love
everybody.
to see
Oh.
to see Rush do a proper tribute to Neil. I think they need to do a concert, and I don't mean to be out of line here, but I think they owe it to I think the fans and to him to do a proper send off. I don't think they're going to at this stage, but I think
Yeah.
it would be great if they did. Sort of like what Foo Fighters did for Taylor Hawkins. I'd love to see that, but that's just me.
It would have seemed like for Neil it could have been done.
I think
but-
COVID messed it up on some levels, and I
yeah,
think
that
they
was
can still do
COVID
it.
was right in the middle there. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, anyway. All right, guys. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Good night, everybody.
All right, everyone.
Take care.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on all our socials and on progreport.com for all your news, interviews, reviews, and more. And we'll see you again real soon.